where do I find the barbershop where all the brothers go? And I'm like,
the Paul Mitchell. Give me the Paul Mitchell. I want the wavy bang boom. Fortunately, those kind of gaps are easily fixed. You can just go like to your Home Depot. When I do my walks, one thing that I find incredibly annoying is, when you wake up in the morning and you'll have that wonderful need you want to stretch until your body almost feels like it's about to pop. A roller is really good for developing core strength. People think that when you're popping something, you're actually getting rid of fluid, or you're actually messing up the noises. You know what you're actually doing?
The pseudoscience of people who were like not medical doctors, and they just cracked bones and did weird massages, and people didn't trust them, and that was like it.
Oh, you're talking about one of those decompression machines, where carbon-based life forms.
I got hit by a car. Men should be peeing sitting down.
We were going to talk about books for a second. What books have you been reading lately? Anything interesting?
I can't get back to Game of Thrones.
For me, there are only 2 fantasy series that everything else is measured against. One is, of course, and they made into a TV show that absolutely rocks. And I'm like, how did they do that?
So there's no reason for me to go back and try and read the books again.
You have been missing out on maybe the greatest piece of hard science fiction that's also amazing drama. We have plenty of sun outside right now, so yeah. I'm sorry?
I like the hairdo.
Yeah, I just got it cut. Whenever I get my hair cut, it always has this weird kind of I always look like I have bedhead for a few days, afterwards. No matter what I do, I've washed it 5 times since I got my hair cut on Monday, and it is what it is. Yeah. So I'm just,
it's working.
I tell you what, though, don't get your hair cut on MLK Day if you can help it, because down here everybody's kids were out because holiday, right? And it was a 2-hour wait
to get my hair cut.
Yeah, I basically, I was visiting one of my physicians, and I said, let me go ahead and see what the wait times are, because everybody, you log in now and you go ahead and get on the schedule, and the shortest one I found was 130, 140 minutes.
Really?
Some of them were up to 253 minutes and stuff like that.
Wait, what kind of app are you using to do haircuts?
Well, I mean, there's you have Supercuts is one of them. Then you have Master Cuts is another one. Then you have Sports Clips. They all have their own little website that you go to.
Yeah, I don't know these things. I go to my barber. Yeah, and we don't really have barber shops around here. We have one that I almost went to, but when I called them, I could hear the crowd in the background. They were packed, and I was like, okay, they're not going to be able to get me in. So. See, this is something weird. Okay, so when I go to the barber shops, right? Actually, I've cut my own hair ever since the pandemic. I bought what do you call it? I went on Amazon, and I was looking,
wall kind of
and because I do just one layer, and it's with the guard, you put it on, and the first time I did it, I was panicking because I was like, oh my god, I just messed up everything. But then I kept going and going, and I'm like, and it's getting shorter, and I'm like, right, that's the way that works. But okay, so when I go to a new city, right, you have to find where are the barbers, or at least this is what I thought at first, that do black hair, right? Because you can go to Supercuts, you can do all the franchise places, and they can do black hair too, right? I didn't know this for the longest time. But then I was like, wow, where do I find the barber shop where all the brothers go? And I'm like, I have no idea. So you see some guy dude, where'd you get your hair done? Love it. It's
you're not wrong. But what's funny is that when I was waiting, right about the time I was done, Laura had mentioned to me, she was like, you do know that the place I go to could probably just cut your hair. And I realized, oh crap, she's right, because the place she goes to is I guess I don't know what the female equivalent is. I guess the salon, I guess, is what you refer to.
Yeah, you don't use the word barber. It's salon.
Yeah, barber's more of the male term. But she goes to the salon. But her salon is pretty much, for Latinos and Black people. And, they have white people there too. But it's primarily, they have a much more diverse group of people that are in there. And Lauren's like, you could have just gone to my folks. And I'm like, damn, I could have, I don't care if I get my hair cut by a lady in a salon or not. I'm like, go ahead, give me the Vidal Sassoon, what was it from Zohan? The Paul Mitchell. Give me the Paul Mitchell. I want the wavy bang boom.
Yeah.
I would totally
I didn't realize that either, because at first I thought it was okay, only guys can cut guys' hair, and only you have to go to the barber. You can't go to like a salon to get your hair cut. And now I'm like, Supercuts, let's go in there. But now I just do it myself because I bought the razor and it works. And
well, we actually bought one of those walls as well, and it was one of those rechargeables, and I was like, great. And that recharger lasted for so long; it was a year before we had to start to recharge it.
Right.
We lost the cable, and we can't find a compatible cable anymore. So we have this beautiful clipper that I can just use. Nothing. I can't use it. And it's just sitting in my damn bathroom now, just beautiful, and industrial and whatnot, because we don't cheap out on things that we're going to use frequently,
right?
Because we typically believe that if you pay the extra money, it will last longer and just give you a better service overall. And I have this beautiful hair cutter, and I can't find the damn plug, and the models that they have now have a different plug. Yeah, so. It's not even the same. It's frustrating, is what it is.
I have a fear of because I bought one that's rechargeable, right? Because my dad used to cut my hair, and I always had the cord, and you had to move the cord around your head and all this kind of stuff, right? And so I got this rechargeable one. I plugged it in, I charged it, and I cut my hair, and now I'm afraid that one day it's going to run out in the middle of a haircut. I'm going to be half. but I do have to
own it. If that happens, own it. Just walk around and say, yeah, I did it.
Yeah. What's the Two-Face in Batman, right?
Yes. See, you just have a suit in your closet ready to go at any time. That's just split down the middle. And if your hair is ever just half done, that's the suit that you wear for the day, and you're ready to go.
I could do that, actually. I have to say.
Yeah. But it's funny. Considering I got a haircut, well, you can't really see it. Hold on, I'll tilt this down. But I'm wearing my Wolfman. We went to Universal. Yeah. So talk about a hairy guy that needs a haircut, right? So So that's funny. But so how you been? Like I said, I reached out to you because I realized we hadn't talked in so long.
I looked at Facebook the other day, and I'm like, I've been talking to Sean in forever. So we're right here. We're
picking up.
We're vibing it. I guess it's so weird because I've been in the hospital, right? In November, and that was just I went 3 times. I stayed twice. The third time, third time COVID, it's we don't need to keep you this time, you can go back home. So it's my realization and awakening is that work is secondary and my health is primary. So I have been doing all kinds of I've got a trainer now. She's amazing. And awesome. I think I almost have a muscle right there. And I can walk again, which is good. And in fact,
that's fantastic.
When we are done talking here, I'm going to go outside and begin my 5,000 steps for the day.
Now, are you in a place that's not currently snowed in? Are you in a...
It's not today because yesterday it was 19 and today it's supposed to be 60. So I don't know how that works.
Okay, so you clearly live closer to the south than the people up north, because that's how our weather has been. Last night it was 28 degrees, and then I think outside right now. Hold on, let me put my glasses back on. It is currently 57.
I don't understand that. Let me see what we got here.
I know that our weather pattern is like that because our winters here are fairly mild because we're next to the coast, so the coastal waters keep us fairly warm. But when those cold fronts push down and they hit the warm fronts from the Gulf, you immediately, I call them winter canes, because we'll get gale force winds. We actually, I think it was last week or the week before, we had winds that were so bad it actually ripped off a couple of shingles off of our roof. Yeah. I
don't get it, because here also apparently, when you move into an apartment, you don't really go around check the floorboards and the window seals and all this. At least I don't. And what I found out the other day is that when we had these winds, like you're talking about, it's literally like people walking through my apartment. It's wow. You can hear them and you can feel the wind. And I went downstairs the other day. There's literally a gap in the door like this wide for the glass door where it's supposed to be like this. Yeah, it's like this. I'm like, who built this place? They charge way too much money for the rent here to have gaps like that.
That's true. But fortunately, those kind of gaps are easily fixed. You can just go to your Home Depot and they have weather stripping.
Yeah.
And the weather stripping, you can just, I mean, it's literally like it's a 3M on the other side. You just pull it and then you stick it. And then when it closes, it'll close that gap for you. So
Will
it's
that
not even
that'll work
expensive.
on windows here too, like the window I've got?
For the most part, depending on the type of window, it should work. So it should be, Laura, I think.
It's like windows that like slide up and down. So it'll just slide over the weather stripping and then.
It should. Yeah, it should.
It's like
it absolutely should.
Gap. Like, done.
Yeah. Weather stripping is very inexpensive. You usually get, they sell it by the foot. So normally when you get weather stripping, it's like 6 feet. You can get them as long as 20 or 30 feet. But you might drop maybe $13-14 for like 6 feet of weather stripping. And so you just cut it to size, you lay it down, and then you're good to go.
Does it work on motorcycle noise outside too? Like,
I can't say that it's going to work on noises, but it will make a seal. So, since air and like wind and rain won't be able to get through because the weather stripping's there, it will reduce noise, but it's not built necessarily to reduce sound in general. So most sound that's probably already entering your home is probably just from the lack of insulation, and maybe your windows are not too thick. So I can't sit here and say, oh, you're going to have a vast difference in noise quality.
Anything like health, I think it's worth having somebody that can like be there and make you accountable, and not just like, because you'll have like a mastermind group and it's like, hey, did you do your blah, blah, blah today? Did you write that report? No. Okay, cool. Just let me know when you get it done. No. My trainer, who just happens to live down the hall from me, it's like, Michael, hey, it's time to work out. I'm like, really? I don't feel like it. Yeah. And I get up and I go. So I have only missed in the last, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, whatever it is we've been working out, maybe a day,
That's good.
Yeah. And even with weather, I still have, the what do you call those things? Steps, step class. Where
the little like the little machines that you can step on. Yeah.
No, not the machine that you do that, but like the step class where it's like looks like you're dancing, but you're stepping on this thing up and down.
Oh yeah. Like it's just like a little ledge, like a little
ledge, right?
Yeah.
And you can add levels to it so that they're higher and all that kind of stuff. So my mom had those, and now I have them because I figured I was going to step. Nope. But in my apartment, I can actually, when I'm not going outside stepping, I step on that thing. And now I step on those things, and I figured out in my hallways that it is 200 steps to go all the way to the exit sign and back. And if I add the little detour to go around where the elevators are, that's an extra 27 steps that I can get. So up, around the elevator, down the hall and back, 220 and 40 something steps, something like that, right there. So
there you go.
Yeah, back and forth every couple hours, and I'm good. Then I go outside and I walk around the neighborhood, except when it was freezing the other day, and then we just step.
Yeah, I do. When I do my walks, I actually will go outside, and I know how to. I've patterned my neighborhood, so if I want to do 2 miles, I know which pattern to take. Because one thing that I find incredibly annoying is seeing the same house, because it feels like I'm not going anywhere. So like when you were saying like you go to your like elevator and come back, if I did that multiple times, I would feel like I'm not accomplishing anything. So I plot how I'm going to go around my neighborhood. So if I'm doing a 1 mile walk, I know I'm doing this route. If I'm doing a 2 mile walk, I'll do X route. If I'm doing a 5 mile walk, I actually go out to like the main road and then go down, cut through another neighborhood, and then come back through. So like I actually go like all the way around, just because I can't stand seeing the same like scenery. Like it in my brain, there's just something about I'm not accomplishing anything. The only time I can do that is we have recumbent bikes upstairs. That we can use. And so like I have like a projector and I'll turn on like a TV show or something. But in the last like 6-7 months, I've been having a really hard time with my personal issue has been my tailbone, my actual coccyx. And there was an accident that had happened a few years back. And they feel that that accident has probably healed a little off, and there's maybe arthritis in it now. So now they're trying to figure out a way to treat it, because I've been doing exercises and yoga, and I go to like a chiropractor and stuff, and that all works, but it's not working as well as it had been, and the pain is becoming more acute. So my pain level every day is going up. So they're like, okay, we're probably going to have to do something.
Yeah.
But once they do that procedure, like I'll go and actually I get an x-ray tomorrow, and then they'll figure out the procedure after that. But I'll do that, and then hopefully it'll work, and I'll be able to sit on that seat properly again, and I can just do my recumbent biking. So,
do you know, the funny thing is, like, you don't, at least I didn't, you don't realize these things that hurt as you get older, or that people have. Like, I remember watching an episode of Desperate Housewives back in the day, and one of the characters' husbands was in his bar or store, restaurant, or whatever it was, and he fell down and he hurt his back, and he like couldn't get up. And I'm like, dude, just get up and just, use your phone, get up, go walk it off. I did not realize that having a back that hurt like that, you cannot get up.
Yeah.
No, it's like debilitating, and you're just done. You just lie there in pain until someone comes and rescues you.
Pretty much. I mean, I have an injury in my spine that I don't really talk about, that I have to work on. That I do a lot of yoga stretches, and I do a lot of stuff. Like, we're not going to show it, but like when people see how bendable I am, they're like, "How are you doing that at 45?" And I'm like, "You should have seen me when I was a kid. I could pretzel." I've always been pretty bendable, but the last few years I've been noticing that I've been more and more stiff. And so they're like, you need to start doing stretches more. And I realized that like my muscles would just like, if I like, when you wake up in the morning and you'll have that wonderful need to just, you want to stretch until your body almost feels like it's about to like pop. If I don't do my stretches normally and I try to do that, my legs, because the muscles are always so tense, will completely cramp, and I will Charlie horse all the way up my leg.
Yep.
So I have to be careful about that kind of stuff. So I was like, how do I stop this? And they said, you need to start doing stretches. So now, at least twice a day, I will, like once in the morning, once in the evening, I will do these stretches. And when I first started doing them, I would just be pouring sweat because I'm bending myself in half. Like I tell people, like, if you want to see the weirdest thing in the world, watch me sit. We used to call it Indian style, but I think they call it crisscross applesauce, where you cross your legs like this.
Yeah, I can't do that. Yes.
Right. Well, I that's actually the way I sit apparently is really weird, because I crisscross applesauce in a really weird way. Like, it's almost like yoga. Because they tried to teach me how to do that. And I was like, I already do this. And like, how are your legs bending like that? I was like, they just bend. And then I'll take one leg out and I just swing it behind me. So one leg is in front of me and the other leg is directly behind me. And then I lean forward. So I'm literally putting my face on the ground with one leg folded up underneath me, and the other leg is sticking behind me, and that pulls all those muscles so that way they can't get too tense.
Wait, you can do that like now?
I mean, yeah, like if I told Laura to turn the camera, I'd show you, but you really don't want to see it. It's
but
weird.
You're that flexible right now. Like, you can do that. Like, can you, I started following people who do calisthenics and weights and all this kind of stuff, and just aerobics. And I was watching the people do dragon squats, and pistol squats, like where you put your one leg out in front of you and squat, and then the dragon one, you're going down on your side and standing back up. And I'm like, I'm lucky if I can balance on one foot, much less get down and squat it out and then stand back up.
Yeah, fortunately, I don't have to stand in the middle of any of this. I'm in a sat position. But like, once I get that one leg behind me, if I really want to make sure everything is bending right, I'll then turn myself to the side. And what that'll do is it'll basically, my muscles in my spine will then have to line and pull. So if I have my right leg, I then bend towards my left. And so it pulls it all in the opposite direction. So I'm just pulling the muscles so that way they're not going to get too tight. Yeah, it's a whole thing that I do. And then I have a foam roller that I put on my spine, because that helps the actual injury of the spine. And I have these little hand weights that I'll hold where I can't touch the ground, and I just keep them like this far off the ground while I'm doing this. And it's a whole thing. Okay,
so tell me about rollers. Like, my brother got me a roller when I was when I hurt my back, and literally it was just, yes, that's it. That's the torture device that I have.
Amazon Basics.
Yeah. And you're supposed to get on your back and roll with it or something like that.
Well, there are a couple of ways you can do it. Yeah.
Okay, tell me, because I'm supposed to use it, but I haven't.
So a roller is really good for developing core strength. So the way I put weight on my body is I am a very thin, very proportional person until you get to my stomach. I have what I call the tire. around my stomach. So imagine like a tire that you would have like on a normal SUV, just somebody has cut a hole in the back of it and shoved me in the middle, and then they just sealed it up. Like I have that thickness right there. But I'm a fairly broad person, so it you know, I'm a fat man. I mean, you look at me like, okay, that guy's fat, but like I hold it well. And they don't realize that I'm fairly spry. You didn't talk to me at Halloween, but we had some kids who tried to steal too much candy, and they were like mouthing off to the neighborhood and whatnot. And then they tried to steal some of our stuff, like our candy and whatnot. And I was like, that's not happening. You need to put that back. You can take one. And they thought they were going to talk shit and like get away. And I got up, and they first off, they didn't realize how tall I was. I'm 6'2", you know, these are like 13-year-old kids. And then one of them tried to like get behind me, and I moved, and they said, "Oh, Biggie can move." And they didn't realize how fast I was. They're like, "Oh crap." So they put all the candy back and they ran off. But yeah, like it's like I'm a much more agile person than people think when they see my size. But the foam roller allows me to work on my core muscles. As I like to tell people, I have abs. They're just underneath multiple layers of padding.
Yes.
And so what you'll do is you'll put it on your back, and if you put it horizontally, if you place it right about the middle of your back, and then you roll towards your shoulders, and then you roll towards your hindquarters, it's going to allow any of your vertebrae or anything in there that's just slightly off to just get popped back into place.
Okay, let's talk about this popping. I was talking to someone the other day about this whole popping back into place, and how I'm like afraid to go to these chiropractors because I see on YouTube, I see these videos of chiropractors taking people's heads and like doing the Arnold Schwarzenegger like that thing where you like breaks their neck and stuff. And I'm like, how are chiropractors not killing people in their offices? Maybe there's something different. Maybe that's just BS on the TV. So there's that. And I'm like, explain that to me. Is it real? Do you break people's necks that way, or does it not break them? Is it find more?
As a person who has not been trained in the fine art of murdering people by breaking their necks, I can't tell you how easy it is to snap a person's neck, but I believe that's more of a way of showing how strong or capable the individual is in the narrative that you're watching versus what's happening in real life. I mean, hold on, I can like, give me a second. There. Yeah. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can pop my own neck. Like I can actually adjust my own neck when I need to. But when I go to the chiropractor, what they're doing is they're basically, so a pop is actually, it's really funny. People think that when you're popping something, you're actually getting rid of fluid, or you're actually messing up the noises. You know what you're actually doing?
No.
Is what you're actually
out with the sound.
Yeah. So what you're actually doing when anything pops in your system, what you're doing is you're creating fluid that's basically going into those spots just for a second. Like the fluid is just going into it, and air bubbles are being released, and then the air bubbles then disperse out. That's why you can't pop them over and over again, because now there's a little pocket in there that's just helping you. That doesn't actually hurt. It's not actually meant to injure you or anything. If you ever do something like that, like I can pop my thumb, like hold on, like. Okay, it doesn't want to pop. But you see, I just popped that finger like this. Yeah. So if I try to pop this again and I keep forcing it and I hurt myself, what I'm doing is I'm not hurting the knuckle and I'm not hurting the joint. What I'm actually hurting are the muscles.
Okay.
So when a chiropractor is going in, what they're doing is they're relieving the pressure by making sure that everything is aligned. And then they're also making sure that there's no tension in your body, because if there is, that helps the muscles take a chill for a moment. So when I go to a chiropractor, my visit is very little hands-on manipulation of my body. What they'll do is they'll come in, they'll say, where does it hurt? And give me like an idea of like how intense the pain is. Right. And what they'll normally do is they'll put you on the table, and they'll usually start you face down if it's in your back, and they'll find the spots. And what they'll do is they'll usually put some sort of electronic device on you. They're called, I forgot what they call them, but they're like little electro pads, and they'll put them like on your back or whatnot, and they'll turn up the volume until you feel what they call the ants. And what that's doing is it's sending electric current into the muscle, the problem area. So that way those muscles are basically being caused to flex and tense and relax quickly. And once the electricity stops, the muscle has no choice but to chill. So they hit the problem area with that. Then what they do is the adjustment table then allows them to then move up your body. And just imagine a table that has a bunch of segments on it, and they can just, it's like this, and then a part of it will just go up like that. and they'll put their body pressure on the other side and they'll push down on you. When they push down, this has just enough resistance to allow whatever your muscle is, be it, or not muscle, whatever your piece of your skeletal structure is, be it a rib or a spine, it's just going to go click, and it just gives it just enough resistance so that the bone has to kind of go back to where it's supposed to be, and then everything slots back into place.
Okay, so because I have this like fear of going to the chiropractor, like I'm going to be paralyzed for the rest of my life if they pop my back. Like seriously.
No, seriously, it's nothing. Have you ever had a friend like just put their hands on your back and just kind of do that?
Absolutely not.
Never, ever?
No,
okay.
Because I've had this phobia of like you're gonna like break my spine or something. So yeah, I'm wrong.
I'm not okay. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say you're wrong. You might have spinitis, and like your spine might be super fragile. I don't know. By the way, spinitis is something I just completely made up.
I was about to say, is that real? No, okay.
No, it's not real. Honestly, what I was thinking of was that Futurama episode where they defrosted one of Fry's descendants or something, and he had bonitis, but he was like a super Wall Street player, and he started like making money for everybody, but he forgot to cure his bonitis. So he died of bonitis in the end because he went right back into like the Wall Street kind of mindset, and he died of bonitis. But like honestly, like you chiropractors are doctors. They are medical professionals. You go, you talk to them, you express your fears to them. Like Laura is a very tense person. She does not like people messing with her neck. She has one guy, and that's our chiropractor, Ollie. And she's like, that's my guy. There are other people that we see. There's JM, there's Dr. Goodwin. There are just a host of really good chiropractors that we see that are associated with Ollie. And she'll let them adjust any part of her body except her neck because she only trusts him. And that's fine. And they'll work with that. So when she wants her neck to be worked and he's not around, they'll do an alternate procedure. So most of the time they'll grab it and they'll just kind of click, right? Yeah. When it's not him, they just kind of grab like the base of the skull like this, and what they'll do is they'll just pull a little bit, and they just kind of pull, and they'll just massage the base of your neck, and they'll just kind of do this, and they'll kind of do that, and they're not going to try to do a sudden movement or anything because they want you to be comfortable with them. Like if you're afraid, you're going to be tense, which means that they can't help you. So their goal is to relax you enough so that they can assist you. And if you're really freaked out, that means the first few visits, it's all going to be about establishing trust so that you allow them.
Weren't like back in the day, I don't know how far back in the day, wasn't like chiropractics, whatever, like the pseudoscience of people who were like not medical doctors, and they just cracked bones and did weird massages and people didn't trust them, and that was like it.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, back in the day, it was a less regulated industry. There was a lot of I don't want to call it like hoodoo, but there was a lot of just kind of guys who are out there. Oh, I can fix your back. Right. But there's always been a standard of care that chiropractors have always strived to work on. And in the 60s and 70s, a lot of folks were like, this feels a little sus. Like, I don't know about all this. Okay. But there is decades and decades and decades of empirical, scientific, rigorous studying that shows that chiropractic not only helps and assists, it also improves the quality of life. Now, by the time we got to like the 80s, when I was like a kid, the evidence was there, but they didn't know if it was psychological or if it was an actual, this is a real improvement. They didn't know if it was some kind of placebo effect. Right. But what they did know is that the patients were feeling improvement. And that ultimately was enough for them to continue to say, we should continue to inspect this. Because when I was growing up and my parents would go to a chiropractor, it wasn't covered under insurance. So if you went, you paid out of pocket completely. Whereas now, hell, when I first started working at my current job, like 17 years ago, I could only go to the chiropractor once a month, and they would only cover so many sessions. Now I can go to the chiropractor every day, and it's just a copay, and I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, I got to check this out because, like, I had 2 herniated discs at the bottom ones, S something and whatever.
Oh yeah, so you're like right at the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, at the bottom, and then like it hurt forever. I was on crutches for I don't know how long. This is when I didn't have insurance, and then I was trying to do some physical therapy and all this kind of stuff. So did crutches, did the cane, and then finally I've got to walk again. So I just started walking, and now I'm walking. because I still have the old school thought of like chiropractors are going to kill me, but
Mhm.
there's the, what do you want to call these? I think there's a DRX 9000 or something, like it's a machine you get in it, like you lay on it, and it's like stretches your back by putting weights on your feet or something like that, and then
Oh, you're talking about one of those decompression machines.
decompression
Like,
machine. Yeah. Now,
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
that like a real thing that really works, or is that just like voodoo science that doesn't do anything for you?
I'm going to be honest here. I've never had to use one. They don't use
I
one in their
tried it once
office.
for like the demo, and
Yeah.
I was like, okay, it feels like I'm better. And like for the first hour after we were done, I was like, my back doesn't hurt, and then it started hurting again. And I was like,
Right.
and you're supposed to do this like 12 or 14 times or something like that. And
Right.
but what I don't understand is you're going to stand up and your back's just going to compress again. So how is it going to ever heal? That's what I
Well,
don't understand.
there's a number of things that happen in the process of this. So, as with anything with your body, unless you do something serious to it, like surgical,
Yeah.
it's always going to be an incremental step of improvement, right? Just like if you're going to therapy or if you're on a diet or you're working out, you didn't go walk around your building 1 or 2 times and like, I have lost all the weight.
I tried.
You know what I'm saying? Right? Like, wouldn't that be great if that's how it works?
Yeah.
You know, you didn't get to the weight or the health level that you are in one moment. It was a progression. So,
right. But you're going to like stack the blocks back on top of each other and they're going to compress again.
Right. But as your body starts to feel what's right, and the idea is that you're also doing other things to improve it. For instance, you're using your foam roller. And so what happens or whatever procedures or techniques that you're learning about, your body over time starts to understand how to hold itself better. Are you sitting well? Do you have the proper lumbar support? Hell, I have to, if you saw what I'm like, let me just stand up. Let me show you. So
Okay.
I sit in a normal chair. Okay.
Yes.
But my chair, unfortunately, doesn't have the right kind of lumbar support. So this is actually an old office chair that
Yes.
we recycle everything. So this is literally, I literally took a chair apart. So I had lumbar support here for this. But
Yeah.
it doesn't have enough for the bottom of my spine because I have a long torso. So I have this guy that sits down here, right? And then I have, okay, the internet. This is how much you're going to get to learn about me. I have this stupid pillow that I have to sit.
Yeah.
This is where my butt hurts.
For the
It can't
coccyx.
touch anything. For my coccyx. So I can't allow my butt tail to touch anything. So it has to sit in the stupid hole when I sit on the damn ground. When I sit on stuff. So my chair has been like jury rigged in order to like allow me to sit. But
you've made your own self chiropractic chair.
Right. But what I do is this allows me to have the proper support so that way I know how to sit straight and I can have the proper posture. So that way when I'm sitting, I don't actually mess up my back. And over time, those muscles strengthen. They become more solid, secure. And you should be doing the same thing. You know, as you're walking around, you're going to lose weight. If you're working on your core muscles, those core muscles are going to become stronger. You're going to continue to decompress them, and they're going to be able to hold your body together better with less weight and less pressure on them.
Awesome. I love this. I had no idea that we were going to get into talking health wise today. This is
I mean, we haven't even talked about like any of the other stuff you want to talk about yet.
No,
like,
we haven't even gotten to like
or anything.
Fiction or like life. We just been talking about like why my back hurts.
I mean, seriously, like if you would like to talk to Ollie, I'll text him and see if he wants to be on the show. I'm sure he probably would. He actually, now that this is just his own personal stuff, he had gotten into an accident a little while back. And so he's been recovering from that. So he's been having to go to his own therapist to like get his stuff worked out. But he's a big believer in it. Like he works almost exclusively with people who have gotten into accidents or have had some kind of trauma in their body. And he really helps them get that fixed. And then they just keep
trainer is of that ilk also.
Yeah.
What she wants to do is she had a concussion, lasted for a year. And now it's like, I'm going to help people with concussions. And I'm like, let me get you on the show and let's start talking to some people so that you can tell them about concussions and you can get your whole thing going. I think I've learned so much about health now that I have health problems. And I'm like, okay, we don't want to die tomorrow. Let's figure out how to get healthy again. And that's the impetus for my getting better. And by the way, this little thing that I got here,
that's your water.
Oh my God. It's double the insulated thing, and it's got like, here's how many ounces you're supposed to drink. Yeah.
Yeah, I drink like 4 of these a day. So
Yeah, they're the best. I just keep drinking it. It's like,
yeah, Laura has about 6 of these in different types. She keeps making new ones.
Yeah.
The funniest one on the side, it says hydrate or die, and it has a little Grim Reaper in the middle. And so, like, she has that one. She carries around a lot. But yeah, we have like a bunch of different, just like, you're supposed to, they say something like 8 glasses of water a day. And I think,
yeah, I just have not gotten to that yet. I can drink this down and then chew the ice, drink it down and chew the ice. I've almost got a matching set. If I go to the hospital one more time, I'll have a matching set of these. So.
Well, there you go. And then like when neighbors come over and whatnot, you're like, oh, here, let me give you one of my cups.
Yes.
And you get like the fine china, except it's your fine drinking ware.
Yeah, exactly. I love this thing. You put it by the bed at night.
It's great. Yeah. But okay, so we've talked about health stuff. So that's one show. We can put a pin on that.
Oh yeah. We're gonna do like, I think I right now, because I don't have a producer right now for the show.
Oh, did Caden have to?
I don't have Caden right now because Caden is off doing his own thing right now.
Fair
but what I'm going to do is go back to how the show started 4 years ago and literally talk about, I just want to talk to people. Like we're talking, like we didn't have a topic. We've talked about all kinds of weirdness going on. So I'm going to get back to that. I've already got my friend Robin coming on. She'll be on next week. Matter of fact, what I want to do is get like 5 or 6 of these ready to go, edit them, and then we'll put them into a catalog, and then we'll start doing them once a week for now, and then twice, and then 3 times after I've got enough built up. But I actually like this whole idea of random thoughts and helping people. See, you already helped me today, because now I'm thinking, all right, maybe I can go to a chiropractor, and instead of hobbling out of bed every freaking morning, maybe something will be better than what's going on right now.
Well, I mean, not to mention the fact that, and this is just a bonus. Like, first off, go to a chiropractor that's very well reviewed. Like, go and look at Google scores and Yelp scores, and go to people who have good reviews. That's going to be like when people are brutal when it comes to that kind of stuff. So if you're getting a 4 or 5 star review constantly, and they're like legit reviews that you can read, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be able to trust those. But one of the things that I always look out for is, what does their establishment look like when you go into it? And our guy, you walk in and the first thing you see is this row of those massage chairs, and you can either hit it at the top or at the end of your visit, and they'll just put you in it and just sit there until you feel like you're ready to go. So like when I saw them earlier this week, they worked on me for a little while, and then I got in the chair and I sat there for a good like 30 minutes. I just turned it on. I just sat there, and the massage chairs just
is that the one that, like, Planet Fitness, which I used to belong to in Florida? Actually, I still belong to, because I'm too lazy to cancel my $10 a month membership. Actually, it's not that I'm too lazy. I've actually called them to try and cancel my membership, and like, you have to come in. I'm like, I'm in Texas. I'm not going to Florida to cancel $10. And they go, okay, we'll cancel it for you. 2 months later, there it is on my little bank statement.
Just go to your bank statement and say, do not approve a charge from them anymore, and they'll do it for you.
Maybe that's what I'll do. And then, of course, there's the whole like psychology of, well, I've got it. There's one down the street from me. Can I transfer it? And there's a place.
I think your Planet Fitness goes everywhere with you. Yeah.
No, but the one I have is like for one specific club. Like with LA Fitness too, when I was there, it's like you can get a membership at this club, or you can get one for like the whole city, or you can get one for national, and they just cost more and more incrementally as you go. So I was in Florida, and I'm like, I'm just going to get the one that goes with, locally, because I'm not traveling right now. And then I moved to Texas, and I'm like, crap, I forgot to cancel it before I left, and I haven't been able to cancel it yet.
Yeah, so, just yell at them until they do it.
That'll be my next thing. I've got to cancel that thing, because it's just $10 a month for supporting nothing right now.
Right. But yeah, no, those back massagers, I mean, they're the same kind of, I mean, the ones that I sit in with Ollie and them, like those things, not only does it massage your legs, it massages your back and your neck. It also massages your arms. Like they have this thing where like you lift up the arm of the chair, and like you put your arm inside of it, and they have the little rollers even in there, so you can massage basically everything. Now,
the one that I sat in at Planet Fitness, I think it had a little thing that punched you, but there was something that in it that rolled up and down your back, like you go, don't know if this is good or not, but it kind of feels good. But
Yeah. Yeah, and there's the ones that I sit in at our guy. There are different ones. So there's one that's just I think there's just one that's just called treatment. There's one that's called pain relief. There's one that's called stretching. And so depending on what you're feeling, you just tell them and they pop in that option, and then it works your areas. So for me, it's pain relief primarily in my coccyx area. So I get a lot of that little feeling that you were feeling where like it's rolling up and down and it kind of does like the little jackhammer. It does that mostly in the lower part of my torso. And then it also then rolls up the back of my spine to make sure that everything's staying aligned. So it works pretty well. I mean, because really what you're looking at is the inside of that device is basically just, it's a bunch of these guys.
Yeah.
Is really all this is. So it's a bunch of these guys that are mechanically just moving up and down, and they're vibrating. Obviously, they have a little bit more mechanicals because they can move from side to side and stuff. But
so, can I just tell you how glad I am that we had this conversation together?
Well, you're welcome.
I'm like, I've got a kindred spirit that has a bad back. Thank you, God.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Mine, unfortunately, my back was really good, but it was just accident stuff that happened. That.
Mine was an accident. I accidentally picked up my brother's suitcase, which only weighed like 20 pounds. And I'm like,
and that just killed it.
That was it. It was literally one day I picked up the suitcase. Hey, I'm glad to see you. You're back in Florida. Let's go take your stuff to the room, and then we're going to go out and hang out. I picked it up, and all of a sudden I hit the floor because it hurt that bad.
I've had those days, sir. I've been there. I think probably the funniest one that has ever happened to me was I got up and I breathed. And I literally felt my back go, nope. And I bellowed, and Laura is like, what's going wrong? What's happening? And I was like, I got to lay back down. She's like, you're in the bed. And I'm like, I heard something. She's like, doing what? And I look at her dead eyed, like I was breathing. And what do you say to that? Like, what? And clearly something, I'd gone to sleep. I'd slept on it wrong. I got into a weird position and the back was already inflamed. And so when I just straightened up, and this is before I was doing my stretches, it just was not having it. And it decided, okay, you breathed and I'm now going to make you pay. So that's the thing about getting older is when we're young, we're not as calcified. And I've talked about this on previous shows. I talk about the fact that the thing that actually gives us life, oxygen, we're carbon-based life forms. Carbon oxidizes, and literally we're slowly oxidizing to death. As we get older, our bones, it's not that they become more brittle. They eventually do, but they become less pliable. So how they talk about how kids, they just fall out of a tree and they just bounce back up.
Yes. Because
they kind of do. Like they're not as oxidated as we are. Like once you get to like your middle age, your bones are kind of in that, not the sweet spot, but you've gone past flexible, rubber McGee, and you're now a solid human. And as you progress, if something doesn't line up, you can't just bloop, bloop, like it just you feel it. So
I love that we are now a solid human.
Yes, we are now a solid human. We are no longer a gelatinous, child or early adults. I mean, seriously, think about the stuff you did when you were like 19, 20, like the stupid stuff you did.
There's so many things. Like I remember climbing over a fence at school. And couldn't see the bottom, like how far down it was, and just kind of fell and broke my wrist. And I'm like, I have to get back up with one hand.
Right.
And then I got hit by a car. I mean, like,
wow.
Yeah, I was going to Denny's one night, and there were three of us walking across the sidewalk, and the guy who was closest to farthest away from the street goes, "There's a snake." Now I'm terrified of snakes. He knows this. So I jumped into traffic and got hit by the side of a car. And I was like, I'm okay. And I got up and so I assured the guy, no, you don't need to call your insurance or anything. I'm good. Right. Got to Denny's, was in awful pain because I didn't realize how bad I hurt. Came back and had literally crawled up to the second floor where I was living and was in bed for days.
You just want some big fat yeast rolls, man, and like you got hit by a car for yeast rolls.
I didn't understand.
What we do.
Yeah. So when you're a teenager, you're a kid, you can bounce back. Now you get hit by a car. It's like, where's my DNR and all this kind of stuff.
Right. Where's my, I need my walker now, and give me that, that thing they always have in Hollywood where they give you that big whiplash neck thing, the brace. And no, it feels like that. But now being hit by a car is like, I stubbed my toe on the corner of a shelf or something. Like, seriously, like I have big feet, and I've stubbed my toes religiously my entire life. But in the last like 5-10 years, when I stub my toe now, it's like I see God for a second. Like, God's like, "Are you ready to come home, my child?" And I'm like, "No, I'm okay." Like,
yeah.
I think that's how I'm going to go one day. It's like I'm going to be like 85 years old, and Laura's going to ask me to maybe get some tea or something from the kitchen, and I'm going to get up and I'm going to stub my toe, and then Jesus is going to just yank my soul out of my body. I'm just going to fall over dead. Like, it's just that's just how it's going to.
I see it coming, man. I have a, like, you've got the comforter on your bed, and it covers up the edge. So I always make the wide path around the bed now. It's like, right foot, move out of the way. Because that stubbing the toe thing, that is a come to Jesus moment.
It is absolutely. And what's funny is now I sleep with like a little sleeping mask on, because I find that I get better sleep with the little eye mask on. Sometimes I got to pee in the middle of the night, but I don't want to take the mask off. So I know how to move through my bedroom without taking it. But I got to be careful not to stub my toes. So like, I feel like I'm Daredevil, where like I'm using echolocation to make sure I don't stub my toes.
Oh my God.
So I can get that. And then what I'll do is, just for the briefest of seconds, I'll get to the restroom, and then I'll close the door, and I'll turn on the light for like a half second, and I'll just kind of peek up to make sure my aim is correct. And then the mask goes back down, and I hear water, and I'm good. I'm like, all right. Men are stupid. We can just sit down and like negate that entire process, but we're I was built to pee standing up, and I'm going to pee standing up. Like,
okay, let's talk about this, because literally the other day I was watching something. It was either one of the social channels, and it says, "You've been peeing wrong," and I'm like, seriously? Because you just kind of point and shoot, and that's it. And they said men should be peeing sitting down, and like X number % pee standing up, and you'll get a better pee if you sit down. And I'm like, really? Because I'm not feeling that. And I didn't know, one of my friends had a boyfriend who's like, he was from France, and always sat down to pee. And I'm like, no one sits down to pee if you don't have to. You only sit down to poop, and that's it. And they're saying like, peeing, you should sit down, you empty your bladder better. And I'm like, I've been emptying it fine for all these years. I'm still standing up. So what do you think? Stand up, sit down?
I think that as we get older, I think probably sitting down is better, because there are two things that you're probably not doing on a daily basis. Depending on your orientation, your partner may or may not do Kegel exercises, if you know what a Kegel is. And that's strengthening that muscle. That, well, it's not necessarily your bladder muscle. It's the muscle that basically goes in your groin between your buttocks and the front, right? So it's all those muscles. And obviously, if you're have female reproductive organs, that also strengthens all that area. I'm trying to be clinical about this and not get too vulgar, but we should do it too as men, because we obviously have our prostate is there, and also that's part of the muscles that we use in order to effectively have powerful urination. So if you're not practicing and squeezing and actually Kegeling the way women do to keep that area strong, over time that muscle starts to atrophy. And so think about this. Think of the last time, like when you were a kid, did you ever just go, I want to see how fast I can pee, and you would just feel yourself bear down and it would come out like a fire hydrant?
Yeah. How fast, how far, how high?
Right. Yeah. When's the last time you tried that, and how effective was it?
It's not effective, and I don't try anymore.
Right. Do yourself a favor, and internet, if you're of a certain age out there, try that too when you see this, whenever Michael puts this part on. I don't know if this makes sense or not.
I'm just saying, like, can you shoot it over the fence anymore? No. How about
just like feel the pressure, like actually feel the force that you're using, and you'll notice that unless you have an extremely full bladder, you're not able to do it. And that's because those muscles aren't as strong anymore. So if you actually just keep them tense. And the reason why I know this is I've been training all of those muscles, because guess what? My coccyx, those muscles are all attached to it. So every time I'm trying to strengthen those muscles around it, in case it'll help relieve the pressure off of that tailbone if there actually is arthritis in there. So I've had to train that. So I've been noticing now that my urinations are getting stronger again, because like those muscles are becoming, they're getting more.
So maybe I should just find a trainer just for that. It's like, okay, let's work on the trainer.
No, you could just tense them up. Like literally, like I'm sitting down right now and I'm talking to you, and I just tense it up for about 30 seconds, and then I'll let it relax, and then I'll tense it back up, and I'll let it relax, and you just keep doing that through the day. You just tense and relax, and if you forget to do it for an hour, no big deal. You just let the muscle rest.
You forget, you just pee in your pants. It's all good.
You're not peeing your pants. But no. So when you're sitting down, though, because you're sitting down, you actually have the force of your body sitting on the bladder, so it allows you to eat more. You're able to use your abs a little bit more. When you're standing up, you don't have the full pressure of your body sitting on that region. So you're actually applying pressure. So think of it almost like a ketchup bottle, right? If you're just kind of squeezing from the top, you'll get it good. But like if you grab it from the bottom, you go like that, you can really get a good pressure of it. When you're sitting, you're going to be able to really get that good grip.
You realize that I'm going to have this vision of ketchup bottle every time I'm now.
Yeah, you see, you just, are you squeezing from the side, or are you grabbing onto it? So
I'm going to grab onto the Heinz ketchup bottle and let's go.
So what I say is this: if you feel like you don't have a powerful urination and you want a powerful urination, first thing you do to fix it, sit down. Second thing you do, start doing the Kegel muscles. And I actually Googled, I was like, does this actually help? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, interesting. And just as a sidebar, by doing those muscles, you're also increasing the power against your prostate. So if you ever have any kind of prostate issues or you want to avoid them, it's not going to eliminate it or anything, but you are actually causing that prostate to get manipulated at the same time. So as you're gripping, you are causing that prostate to be manipulated, which, as we've all learned, for men, prostate is one of the things that they have to keep an eye out for, because it's one of the areas that can easily become cancerous, or just you can have issues with it. So
I'm going to sit here during the day now and Kegel.
Yeah,
as much as possible. Kegeling now. I gotta go.
Okay, you shouldn't look like you. I mean, I'm glad that you're putting in like the full effort, but you can like we've been talking for 57 minutes, and it's been quite a bit that I've been sitting here just like it just.
Hold on, Kegel. Yeah, I'm not. No, can't do it.
So, what books have you been reading lately?
The face to go with it. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, you can, but so okay. Let's shift. Like, we were going to talk about books for a second. What books have you been reading lately? Anything interesting?
I have finished all of the Brandon Sanderson stuff, and I think that there is a new, the last book of the, not Mistborn, the one after it that I haven't read now for weeks, is out. So I've got to get to that one. We got to do some Brandon Sanderson, because everything else that I've read pales in comparison to the way that he writes, at least the way I like writing done. He is amazing. I haven't, there's another guy. I look now for people who have won awards and writing competitions and have 20,000 plus 5-star reviews, that kind of stuff. I still haven't found anybody, because I listen to books as opposed to reading them, because I can't. I mean, you've got glasses too, but I just can't read. So that's what I'm looking for, is like lots of reviews, lots of stars. Anything in the sword and sorcery fantasy realm is good for me. Science fiction I go back to, and who was it? I just read a murder mystery, and I was like, wow, I actually like this genre. So I can't get back to Game of Thrones. I started reading Game of Thrones back in the day, and then I started watching the series. The book was like so much more detailed, but then I caught up to where I was, and then I just started watching the series. So I'm like, okay, it's good enough, and I never finished it, and I can't get back to it. Let me see. Name of the Wind. That's Patrick Rothfuss. Brandon Sanderson. Last one was Arcanum Unbounded.
Okay.
Yeah. And the Metalborn series, that's what it was. The Lost Metals, that's what I was reading. And that was by Michael Kramer. Narrated by Michael Kramer, Brandon Sanderson. So I'm apparently a Brandon Sanderson super fan. And that's what
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, those are, Brandon Sanderson, there's a reason why, Robert Jordan's wife, who was famously his editor for all of the Wheel of Time books, when Jordan knew that he wasn't going to be able to finish it, like he and his wife sat down and they personally handpicked Sanderson to finish it, because they knew that he had a similar writing voice and would be able to absolutely continue that over that genre, the way he was writing it.
That's the whole Wheel of Time stuff, right?
That's Wheel of Time. I love, like, Wheel of Time. For me, there are only 2 fantasy series that everything else is measured against. One is, of course, J.R.R. Tolkien's run of The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, and the Silmarillion, and the other is The Wheel of Time. Those are the 2 most unique fantasy books series that I've ever read. Everything else is a whisper or a imitation of the ideas that I see in those novels.
Really?
And that's not to denigrate them. There are tons of them. Like, I love, like, Tracy Weiss and I forget, Weiss and Hickman. I forget their first names, but it's Weiss and Hickman. They're a duo that wrote dozens of novels, amazing novels. They did one called the Deathgate Cycle, but it's all predicated on kind of ideas that were kind of hatched from, like, Tolkien-esque works.
Would you call Tolkien is, I guess, the granddaddy of it all?
Yeah, I would say he's like the grandfather of what we consider modern fantasy, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, if you're being compared to Tolkien, I don't consider that bad. I think when people go, "Ugh, it's not even worth your time," that's a horrible thing. But just because you're what's the word I'm looking for? You're channeling some Tolkien into your writing. That's not bad. Just channel it well. You know what I'm saying?
It's interesting because I go back and I tried to read Foundation again.
Oh, you're talking about the
Harry Cell, whatever his name was.
Asimov's books.
Yeah, Asimov. And I couldn't get into it because it was time was so far off, right? And just like I couldn't do it.
I try to tell people so I actually did a panel at DragonCon this past summer, and the entire idea behind the panel was, how in the hell did they create such an interesting adaptation of this book that is not really an adaptation of this book? Like, the ideas are there, but it's really not a good adaptation of the book, because the book itself is almost like a Canterbury Tales, where you're jumping from these short stories about characters who are separated by decades, sometimes centuries, about how they're pulling humanity out of the dark ages of a hyper technological future. And there's no main character. The idea is that the goal of saving humanity from thousands of years of despair and only crunching it down to maybe 1,000 years is the goal. And you get to go along this journey with these people. And they made it to a TV show that absolutely rocks. And I'm like, how did they do this? And we did a whole thing about that, how you can adapt, something.
Okay, so do I need to go back and watch Foundation on Apple?
You don't have to read the books. Foundation on Apple is really good because they come up with some really interesting ideas. They come up with, how in the novel A Foundation, Selwyn is talking about how his new branch of science has predicted that the empire is going to collapse.
Correct.
They create something for the TV show called the Eternal Emperor. And the Eternal Emperor is essentially a clone. And it's a clone of what they consider the perfect being. He is the emperor of the universe. And so since he has maintained his empire, what they do is they make a perfect clone of him. And there's always, they call them Brother Dawn, Brother Day, and Brother Dusk. Dawn is the child that is being raised to replace Day. Day is the one who is in charge right now. And then Dusk is the one who is an advisor that can help Day with the decisions that Day has to make. And then finally, the cycle repeats itself. And so they know they're clones, but they're all taught the exact same things about each other. So the idea is that they are indistinguishable because they think with one mind, because they're all the same person. So it's an interesting subplot of this character who is 30 generations in. So
there's no reason for me to go back and try and read the books again?
Not really, because the books also, I'll tell you this right up front. The books are also a giant sausage fest. There are very few women characters in there. Asimov, just like most science fiction writers of the 50s and 60s, they just wrote what they knew, which is a bunch of dudes. Yeah. So one thing that I thought was great that I thought was a very good liberty they took in the TV show is most of these names are so weird. They're just like one name, you know, like they'll be called like Kerrigan or something like that.
Yeah.
And in the book, they'll describe Kerrigan as a male, and they're like, but Kerrigan is such a weird name. Kerrigan could easily be female. And they're like, oh, boom. And so, but then they also have all these worlds they'll introduce in the books. But they give you like one little piece of information. Oh, it's a world that's covered in water. Okay, fine. So in the TV show, they said, okay, well, if every world has its own distinct culture and own distinct kind of ideologies, how do we convey this easily? And they came up with a great idea, which is a lot of the people who live on these worlds are somewhat homogenous. So if you go to this one world, and the person happens to look Latino, most of the people from that world will be Latino. So anybody from that world now will be Latino. You're not forcing a diverse group of people. You're developing these ideas from all these different cultures, and all these characters from all these worlds interact, and you could just tell, oh, they're from this planet. Oh, they're from that planet. Because
isn't that kind of what they did with Star Trek too? I mean, you basically have the Vulcans act this way, the Romulans similar, but the Klingons definitely are different. You know? Right.
But the same thing, but they were able to do that since we're all humans, because humans are the only ones in the galaxy in Foundation, mostly. They're able to show the diversity of actors. So they were able to get people from all sorts of different cultures. So you have people who are very much Chinese Asian, then you have people who are Korean, then you have people who are very much from like Africa. So they have like heavy Nigerian accents, and it all works because they're able to then build the cultures around, well, this is the actor we picked for this role. They come from this planet, and then they kind of reverse engineer it that way. And it works really well.
All right, I'm going to try it again because my friend Tim has been trying to get me to watch Foundation. He was like, it's really good. And I'm like, I'm not feeling it. I watched the first half of the first episode. I didn't get into it. And I was like, I'll try to.
What they do is because they're going to tell a story over 1,000 years, they have to try to find ways of creating characters who will be there for 1,000 years. And that's a little hard to do. So I'll give you some spoilers that are not really spoilers.
Don't give me any spoilers. I'll hate you forever.
Promise you. You know me in spoilers. I don't give real spoilers. But one person becomes a hologram by accident. One person, they do a lot of cryo sleeping. So like they'll be asleep while they're going from place to place. One person slept a couple centuries by accident. Then you have the Emperor, who is a totally new character. And honestly, like, stick around for Lee Pace, who plays the Emperor. He does such a great job because there's an entire plot about they have to be perfect copies of one another. And if there's any discrepancy, that they'll terminate you. And so imagine trying to play 3 different versions of the same character, but they're all slightly different. But they're all supposed to be the same. It's really cool how they do it.
All right, I'm going to give it a chance, and we're going to actually do a whole show on Foundation because I need a new show to watch, and I'm tired of watching Justice League. And you've watched all the way through For All Mankind, right? That just wrapped up its most recent season. No, I haven't seen any of it, and I've never even heard of it.
How have you not seen? Okay,
because I've been avoiding anything on TV or internet.
Oh my Lord. Okay. Rewind. Like flat out, Michael, you have been missing out on maybe the greatest piece of hard science fiction that's also amazing drama.
Wait, is it a series or
it's a series? It's on Apple. They just finished season 4.
Oh, good. That means
so you have 4. You have like 40. I think they do 10 episodes a season or 12. Yeah, you have like between 40 and 48
episodes. For All Mankind.
It's called For All Mankind, and the premise is so simple. The premise is, what if America wasn't the first person to put a feet on the moon?
Is it? See, it's weird because Man in the High Castle, which I did not watch either, is the alternate. What if this had happened? And so it's like that.
No, and I'm going to tell you why. Have you seen from Man in the High Castle at all? Have you read the book?
That's another one that Tim keeps telling me to watch, and I'm like, is it really good? Because I don't have time to just get into something.
Man in the High Castle is not okay. Let me put it this way: Man in the High Castle deals a lot with being a dystopia. Nazis have taken over.
Yes,
like we live in a place where Nazis have like very much won. But what you find out is it's also a multiverse story, because the way the resistance continues to hold on to hope is that they actually can see other dimensions where Americans have won. So that's where they get their hope from.
Gotcha.
So it's a little bit more sci-fi. For All Mankind literally changes one thing, which is the Russians land on the moon approximately 25 days before we do.
Ooh, okay.
And that one moment changes history. And what's really cool is that history still happens by and large the way you think it's going to happen, except for this, except for that, except for this. And the further we get away from that point, every season takes place more or less in a decade. So season 1 is basically the late 60s into the very early 70s. And then season 2 is in 1983. So it takes place in the 80s. Season 3 is in the 90s. This past season was the years 2003 through 2004, I believe. And now, so
is this a series like when I get to the end of 2004 and I have to wait for a year before the next season comes out, I'm gonna like forget it and like not
no, you're gonna be pissed off what you're gonna be, because so that like, let me put it this way, always watch to the end of the credit. The first season they didn't tell people they did this, but at the very end of the first season they ended the episode, great end of the season, like, oh, that was amazing, and they rolled credits, and people didn't realize for a while that there was an after credit sequence. Gotcha. And the after credit sequence jumps you ahead to the year 1983.
Gotcha.
Because they end in the 70s, and the literally it's somebody's on the moon. That's all I'm going to say. Somebody's on the moon, and you start hearing Tears for Fears.
Everybody wants to rule the world.
Yes, to rule the world. And you're like, wait a minute, that song didn't come out in the 70s. And they roll the credits, and you get through all the credits, and you're like, that was a really weird musical choice, right? Yeah. But I see they're forecasting we're going to jump sometime, and then they show maybe the largest man-made rocket of all time launch, and you're like, and it says 1982. And because the space race never ends, because Russia got there first, our technology starts to change, but not like in weird ways. We're not like in flying cars. In fact, people have been asking, when are we going to get real spaceships in this show? Because everything, even now, in the 4th season, they've extrapolated out where we would be if we had not stopped. And honestly, it's just, we're really close. Like right now, we're a lot closer. The stuff that we talk about wanting to do with like Mars, that we're hoping to do in the next 10, 15 years, they're already doing it.
Awesome.
Stuff like that. And we're getting to the point now where they're really getting to, when they get to the 2020s, we're going to be like in future tech, because they said they want to do 7 seasons. And I think
what's interesting to me, I look at things like Star Trek now, and I can't really like watch anymore because our AI that we have now in 2024 is close to and even better than the talking computers that they have on Star Trek. You know, like their computer doesn't, not quite. I mean, it's getting there, but they're not being 4 centuries ahead of where we are. The computers are not far enough advanced, except for data.
Star Trek's only about 2 centuries ahead.
Is it? It's still not far enough ahead because I'm thinking in 2 centuries from now, we're going to, let's do something here. I have, I got phone calls from my brother and from a client that I need to take. Can we continue talking later this week or next week and just keep doing this?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
We got so much
because we haven't talked about because you wanted to talk about the Alien book. I was going to say about retrofuturism.
I want to talk about Alien.
How have I not told you about that? Like literally,
you've never mentioned it out loud one time ever.
Like literally, when the first time you talked to me, I had done I'm on version 13 of this book now. Like I've been revising it for like this is version 13. Like I think I had finished writing version 1, maybe 2, like the week you met me.
You might have mentioned it way back, but you've never since nothing.
Well, we've had a lot to talk about. So